about this. Oliver, can you sit up a little bit so we're together?
Sure.
I needed to have a pen. I had my pen, and I don't know what I just did. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing today? How y'all doing today? Welcome on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We are excited to be here today because we wanted to give y'all some good information because it's about to be that time of year. And we have Oliver Brown. How you doing, Oliver?
I'm well, Crystal. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, doing amazing. We are so excited to be able to simply share some information with people. If you're on Instagram, come to APW Shout Crystal and you can really engage and see who we have here and really get involved. That's going to really be it. Dash Tees is in the building. He said, hey, come
Hey,
on over to APW Shout Crystal if you want to get some good tax information. Oliver, what's going on, man?
all is well. All right, trying to reposition my camera here. All right, I don't know how many hours we are into the day yet, but it's been a long day thus far. You know, this busy time of year for all accountants and professionals. So we are now here in the process of starting officially another tax season as of the 23rd, which was last
Yes,
month.
yes. And that's why I thought it was important because everybody getting ready to do their taxes. Everybody getting ready to do taxes, whether you're a personal or whether you have a nonprofit, whether you have a business, a corporation, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants to do some taxes. And guess what? A lot of people want to get some money back.
Of course.
A lot of people want to get some money back. So they need to be informed about a lot of information. So before we go further, can you just kind of tell people a little bit about who Oliver Brown is, the accountant Oliver Brown, where you're from, and just a little bit about your background history and how long you've been doing this?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening, everyone that's here live with us. Thank you for taking the time out to certainly, hopefully, be able to find some of the information and the knowledge in large part is going to be useful to you. My name is Oliver Brown. I'm the principal founder, CEO of Brown Tax Preparation and Financial Services. And I'm the owner of a full charge accounting organization and offering specialized services in the space of accounting, bookkeeping, payroll services, in addition to a keen focus in tax preparation or taxation, in the world of taxation. And whether it's in the space of being in personal, business, estates, trusts, and also foreign and international tax returns, I have experience in those areas, and I've been in the profession or the field of accounting for over 25 years. So I have a high level of knowledge. Taxation was one of my greatest joys and my first love in the space of business. And at the point that I decided to become an independent entrepreneur, basically my early years of college, while I was still working corporate positions, taxation was something I've always been fascinated in. I've kept that structure or that love and that joy over the years because I've been able to really connect with households, whether it's on the personal level with their returns, employees, families that are looking to get in a better financial space and understand the benefits of being able to be cognizant, aware of certain tax benefits that you can receive and credits that will be beneficial to your family, and also being a value add and an asset to the business community, whether, primarily focused on small to medium-sized businesses to really get a real guarded focus on the type of benefits that you can receive for your business in the space of taxation.
Wow. I got to tell you guys, if you pop it in over here on IG, you want to come over here if you want to get this good information. This man has a background over 25 years in accounting, bookkeeping, payroll services, and tax preparation. My goodness, that's the whole gamut right there. That's it all. Over 25 years. And you actually work for several corporations on Wall Street, in the Wall Street financial district. So my goodness, where else would you want to get information from than a person who has advised people on Wall Street, right? So that's amazing, Oliver. Originally out of New York City. Woohoo! If I wasn't moving right now, I would hold up my New York City sign because I got a sign for every borough: Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx. What borough are you from?
Special shout out to Brooklyn. Yes.
Brooklyn. See. So we would be shouting out New York City.
Yep.
But listen, you do a lot of amazing work. I've seen you reaching out to some of the people on Instagram. So I appreciate you taking time to come here. Now, what is an area that you want us to focus on right now, considering the fact that it's about to be January 31st,
yes,
which means that everybody has just gotten their W-2s, their 1099s, and everybody's looking for the closest tax preparation person, right? Oh my goodness, Dash T said Brooklyn. Brooklyn is representing tonight. Yes. Okay. So I would like to know, where do you want to focus your attention tonight, so we can stay there. You can highlight some things if there's anything that you want to highlight. And by all means, we'll make sure that we put the necessary things up here so people will know how they can reach you. We'll send them the information so they know they can email you. I'll put the email on the screen, which is there right now, info@btfllc.com for further information. And we will keep this up here as the night goes through. We'll make sure that we give them your website so that if they're popping in and when they come back and do the replay, they'll still know how to reach you later on after they get this great valuable information. So where would you like to begin, sir?
All right. So for purposes of dates, you mentioned a very key date, but well, the first date that we have to adhere to or definitely highlight is the 23rd for the official opening of tax season. So I've already gotten through the process of filing several returns to this point. And, tomorrow is going to be another key date, the 31st. As you mentioned, companies that have a requirement to issue their W-2s and or 1099s. So if you're a small business owner, certainly work on getting your 1099s completed and processed and submitted on time, so you're not subject to any potential penalties or ramifications by the Internal Revenue Service for not meeting that particular requirement. And it's one that is a common one that many business owners miss, that, once you pay independent contractors over $600 or more in a given tax year, you have a requirement to issue a Form 1099 NEC, which is a non-employee compensation form.
Let me stop you there, because you're definitely a New Yorker. Man, you be talking faster than me. So I got to get you to repeat that one good time. You said that if someone makes, was it that they had to make over 600, or if someone paid someone over 600? And we'll get that back.
I guess the do not disturb feature didn't work. Please, if all my lovely clients are watching this, I'm on an interview right now. Please tell the rest of the world not to call me right now. All right. So for purposes of the $600 threshold requirement, if you as a business owner pay another individual or a company for services rendered and they extend to be more than $600, at a minimum of $600 or more, you have a requirement to issue a Form 1099 NEC, which is a non-employee compensation form. That is different from any particular individual that works in the scope of being an employee. So if you are a business entity and you have employees, regardless of the dollar amount, for their earnings that they received during tax year 2022, you will have to provide and prepare and file and submit to the IRS, in addition to the employee, a Form W-2. And if you're in a state that is subject to state taxes, you'll have that particular requirement as well for the state governing bodies. So
let me ask you this. There's a lot of people who have home-based businesses. There's a lot of individuals who have heard a lot of the tax tips, and they've heard a lot of tax breaks about how they can write off their businesses at home. Can you tell us some of those tips that people probably want to know about as they prepare their taxes with the tax break working from home?
Absolutely. So for purposes of whether you are a independent business owner or self-employed individual, and you're operating a business that either could be registered by the Department of State within your home state or where you conduct business, or you're a non-registered entity in the form of a DBA or a sole proprietorship that's not registered, you have the ability and the capacity to write off your out-of-pocket related expenses that you incur while running a home-based business, or if you decide to extend yourself and actually rent or lease a space outside of your home. So your rental expenses, utilities, supplies expenses, marketing and advertising, meals and entertainment to engage with clients, and all the other expenses that you may incur while in the common course of doing business. Those things are available for you to be written off as a tax deduction. Another big deduction that is generally claimed, or you'll find it's sometimes to be hit or miss. If you use your own personal vehicle while in the process of conducting business activity, and by the construct of what the IRS quantifies a business to be, you have to be operating that particular activity for purposes of generating income. There's a gray line that you may cross where the IRS could identify your quote unquote business as being a hobby and not an actual business practice. So if you are, especially if it is your primary source of income, I would always recommend to any client that I work with, or certainly any individuals seeking to move into the space of owning a business, you're always better served, especially if it's going to be your primary source of income, to formally register that business. You will want to have the separation of your personal from your personal affairs from your business, being able to separate your own personal name from the entity that is your business. It helps you in many different layers. It certainly helps from a standpoint of being more legit, if you want to use that word, or viable within the business community to someone that may be looking to solicit your service or buy your product. So it always looks better if you're actually a registered entity. It also gives you the ability from a legal standpoint to not have any commingling or any collusion of your personal with your business, because in the space of operating any business, your liability and your exposure may be smaller or larger depending on what it is that you do. But you don't want to end up in a situation potentially where you are, things happen in business, and and by way of the nature of people, you end up in a litigation or some level of a lawsuit. You don't want your personal assets being subject to any ramifications there. So registering is always the best way to go. If your business is more, or your self-employment is more of a side, a side business, it's secondary income, you still need to have the checks and balances in place, regardless of the liability not being right what it should be. You need to be keeping good track of your records and your receipts and your support, because at the end of the day, you have a responsibility well beyond making sure your taxes are being done properly, preferably moving with a qualified professional like myself to get it done. And I'll advise you, these are the things that you need to keep, the underlying support that you'll need to have on record, because in the untimely event that the Internal Revenue Service or State Department comes back and they want to question certain items or deductions that you have on your taxes, you're covered all the way. So there's no excuse for purposes of when the IRS sends you a notice and they want to question a particular write-off line item that you have on your return, you're expected to have that backup on file.
So, that was a lot. Y'all better have a pen and paper. Y'all better have a pen and paper and take note, because this is going to be a lot of information. So we're going to try to keep it simplified for you, and then we're going to make sure you get all of his information. For those of you that are on IG, his website is www.b as in Brown, T as in taxes, and F as in finances, LLC.com. So that's www.btfllc.com. You want to go ahead and write that website down, go there, and then you can see everything about Oliver and everything he does. Now, Oliver, let me ask you this question. Receipts, like when we do go and we do use our vehicle, I know for me, my challenge a lot of times is keeping up with all the mileage receipts. I was sending them to my accountant, and then I was trying to use a lot of those apps on the phone where they could put it in there and you keep track.
Right.
Same thing with going and having a business meeting. They say if you go out and you eat and you just mention the business, you can write that off too. Trying to keep up with all of those receipts. How important is it for us to have those receipts, especially like small business owners?
It's extremely important, because especially with there are certain threshold triggers that may cause you to be subject to receiving a notice or an inquiry from the IRS, where they're requesting you to provide backup or support in order for them to continue the full processing of your tax return. And that could be in the space of a business return with your expenses. And in the case of a personal return, you may have itemized deduction schedules or certain other tax forms and schedules that they'll ask you to provide and present the support. It's extremely important. I can't stress it enough that you have this.
Have receipts. Now, if you're just tuning in, we're listening to Oliver Brown. He's an accountant that used to work on the Wall Street Financial District. You can come to APW Shout Crystal and put your questions in the box, and he can see them. APW Shout Crystal on YouTube, so you can participate. I see some people coming in, and then you can ask your questions. You can make a comment. You can participate. That's anybody. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, come on over here, get your questions answered, and then you can see it more clearly. APW Shout Crystal on YouTube. You'll see it. It'll say I'm live, and just come on in and join the conversation. We're talking about tax preparation. We know you want to get that refund back. Oliver, a lot of people
Oh,
sometimes end up owing. Yes,
can I
sir.
sit before you jump to the next question? One
Yes.
that my clients in terms of keeping track of that backup and support
Yes.
is you have a device that we all have in our pockets, in your pocketbooks for the ladies, just simply in your possession. These smartphones have all the tools that you need in order to incorporate and keep that granular support. I have I have a couple of hundred clients, and in the space of being able to keep track of physical paperwork and documentation, I try to steer away from that as best possible.
Yes.
You
Yes.
go into your app store or
Yes.
or the Play Store for the Android
Uh-huh.
subscribers, and you could download. There are many scanners and all different types of tools that you can use to take that physical copy. Because the other thing with the support, the receipts, is the will end up fading. So as you mentioned, you have the gas receipts, and these things over a course of months, they're going to fade away. And again, you presenting that to the IRS 2 years down the line when they're asking you for that backup and they can't see it, they're going to disqualify the deduction. So use technology, invest in a scanner, especially if you're a business owner, so you can scan that backup and you'll be able to preserve it for history.
Yes, yes, yes. And we want to make sure that you do that because that's important, guys. We want to make sure I make that a little bigger so you can see it as they come on in the room. We want to make sure that it is the case. Okay. So now, ladies and gentlemen, the next question I was about to ask was going to be about the forgive me as I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to just get some things situated here. Once again, I'm gonna put the website up there for the people just coming in. The apps, are you able to recommend some apps that I remember there was one for gas receipts, there was one for mileage. There's a lot of great apps. Anyone that you recommend on the Android or the iPhone? We're talking tax preparation, guys. We have a man who's been accounting over 25 years. APW Shaw Crystal, I strongly suggest you come over here. You can hear me, but you can get involved if you come over here.
All right. Now, for purposes of mileage apps, there are so many that are out there. I always recommend, there's so many tools that are available that are free. So try to find the best free platform that you could use. And, as a business owner, certainly cutting costs, that's an expense that may not be a big one, but it will help. Every little bit goes a long way. So MileIQ is one of my favorite ones in terms of its user-friendly capability. And it also provides reports that you can then provide and present to your accountant or CPA, or keep it for your own record.
Now say that slower. What is the name of that app?
MileIQ.
MileIQ. So that's MILEIQ.
And the letter Q, correct.
And that's on an Android or an iPhone, both?
Available on both platforms, Apple and on Android.
And on the MileIQ, that's going to help you to keep track of your mileage and have all the information that you need to forward to your accountant.
Yes.
About your business expenses, personal expenses, anything that has to do with your transportation and what you do personally or business-wise.
Right.
Great. So my Bell came in the room. Welcome, my Bell. Welcome, Tasha. Welcome to all of you that's in here, and she asked, are you licensed in the state of Louisiana? While you're answering that, can you let us know the different state that you may be licensed in?
For purposes of licensing, quote unquote, there isn't a special licensing requirement for tax preparers to have with each individual state. It's really based on that particular preparer or accountant's or CPA's knowledge on state law. So I service clients all across the U.S. I have clients in over 20, 22, 23 states, I believe, and growing by the day. So as long as you know state law, there isn't a special licensing requirement that will be needed. So Miss Michelle White, you can feel free to contact me so we could schedule a consultation if you have any needs in the state of Louisiana.
Wow. So that's good to know. So you don't have to have a license. So your accountant doesn't have to be licensed in that state. So what are some other things people need to know when they go to picking the right tax preparer? When I first started this live, I asked you, was your title a tax preparer? And you said the most important thing is that I'm an accountant. Tell me why you said that. So the people understand why it's important that their tax preparer is actually an accountant.
Right. Now, for purposes of my credentials, they're to the levels of being a certified public accountant, which is a qualified exam that accountants can take, and there are certain specialized services that only a CPA can provide. I have a bachelor's degree and I have master's level courses in accounting. So I'm a degreed accountant. And you could be a degreed accountant and work in the capacity of working for corporate America or having your own extension of a business. So that's what, when it comes to those to credential folks, you start there first and foremost. There are, any in the space of tax preparation over the last decade or so, there have been a lot of new businesses popping up all over the country that are creating and forming tax practices, and to the level of their basis of their knowledge. You have to be an aware consumer in being able to make sure that you're vetting the right individuals in order to get your taxes completed. Now, anyone in the space of being able to go out and attain the knowledge can go out and do a basic tax return, but no one can do to the level of what I do and other professionals that are credentialed in my area are, and certainly have years and not of experience can do. Because let's just be frank. In the space of being able to just open a business, anybody can go and just create a new entity and start a tax practice. But you want to be mindful and aware of the people that are not going to be working in your best interest. And in the space of me being an accountant specifically, I'm not a tax preparer. I'm not available to my clients only during the months of January through April. I offer a litany of services that are going to be beneficial for you, especially as a business owner, that are going to be critical to your financial well-being and stability of your business. And certainly from a personal standpoint, when it comes to balancing a budget and being financially literate, my clients can reach out to me any time of the year, not just during the 3-4 months of quote unquote tax season. So that's the main difference between making sure that you address your accountant or your CPA or that professional in that right light, because we've paid our dues and we have high level knowledge that necessarily a tax preparer, a local or general tax preparer may not have.
Oliver, a lot of people like to do their own taxes. A lot of people sit home, they use their app, they go and they the 1040 EZ. I think when you have that simple 1040 EZ, it's easier.
Easy. They gotten away with the 1040 EZ form. So it's
that tells you the last time I did my taxes, right? So what is it now? What's the simple one?
There's a standard 1040, and then there's also a 1040 SR is more for our more advanced senior folks. So the Florida structure used to be 1040 EZ, 1040A, and then the long form being the 1040. The 1040 EZ and 1040A forms were phased out.
Wow. So see what happens when you start using other people, you lose track of all these different changes they've made. That's why you need somebody like that. So are you taking clients now? Are you taking new clients in all the different states?
Yes, for purposes of as of right now, I'm speaking to you on January 30th at 6:28 p.m. I'm still open to having, onboarding new clients once we get to certain levels. We've got all professionals need to do. Your best service to get in contact with a tax professional, appropriately more so an accountant or CPA, as soon as you can, because obviously we're putting in a lot of man hours during the next couple of months. So you don't want to get put into a position where you wait till the last minute. And the primary deadlines that we have to adhere to, there are actually 4 deadlines, not just simply the April 18th, which is the deadline for this year, the mid-April deadline. The first deadline that I'm going to be making the preparations or the assignments to complete taxes is on mid-March, which is for corp entities that are S corps and also LCs. They are required to file their taxes in mid-March, March 15th. And actually,
wow, thank you so much. I see you coming up from IG. Keep on coming, especially if you have questions. Listen, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook, if you're watching this out there on any of these places, YouTube, come on in. It's not too late. Because what you want to do is come in. You want to let him meet you. You want to ask your questions. And you want to make sure you get his email. And you want to make sure that you get his information. That's the important thing. We're putting his website out there for you. And we're making sure that we give you his email so that you can follow up with him. He is open to new clients all over the U.S. He made that very clear. So what's the biggest thing that you've seen, the biggest mistake that you've seen from most people when it comes to getting their taxes done, Oliver, whether it's for personal or business?
Well, we've kind of done it quite a bit, but finding the right professional. Because there are so many people that are getting into the space of just simply either starting a business or working on filing your taxes, you have to make sure that you're going to the right people with the right level of knowledge and experience that are going to be able to assist you. Tax returns are like snowflakes. I like to refer to them. no two are alike. So even in the case of, let's say you're working as an employee, you're making a set salary, your coworker is making the same salary. At the end of the day, your tax profiles are not the same. You come with very different and unique things that are going to be pertinent to your tax return that will not be the same case, even though you make the same amount of salary as your coworkers. So you have to make sure that based on your particular experience or your tax profile, that you're finding the right person. Of course, you mentioned going a lot of folks in the space of even employees primarily, you'll find want to take the onus of actually doing their own taxes. There's still a lot of credits and deductions in the space of itemized deductions Schedule A, or if you are operating and doing an independent business as a simply secondary income, there are a lot of deductions and benefits that you're not going to simply find by way of punching in a couple of keys into a do-it-yourself software. At the end of the day, you're gonna get out what you put in.
Yes.
And levels of being able to maximize that benefit going through the process of filing your taxes, you're best served to finding a qualified professional. So that's one of the main issues I'd say where you'll find. I'm always for being self-servant, but if you're in a situation where you could find some level of value, taking into account value more so than the price that you may end up having to pay, it could end up being a major benefit for you in the long run. Because again, I have to echo this fact. I am not available to my clients just during the 4 months of January through April. My clients have access to me all year round when they're making critical decisions about their finances, being able to invest, starting a business, helping with their kids going off to college and making me able to gain access to certain credits. So the wealth of knowledge that I have is not just encapsulated within that short period. You have being able to have me at your disposal all year round.
That might make you unique. The man said he's available 365 days. If somebody's sending me a request on IG, I'm going to come over there and get that request too, see if you have a question. But listen, you have a question in the box here. Maria came from IG. She said, can you still file taxes if you filed exempt? And will you get anything back? I need for you IG people to come over here to APW because you're going to take me out of my camera if I come over there and I can't do that. So come on over here. Come on over here. Because I can't even see the comments over there. I have to be honest. I can't see the comments because my phone is too far away. But I wanted y'all to know. I didn't want to leave you out. So that's why I went live. But I need you to exit. I need you to exit and come on over here. But now, can they still file taxes if they filed exempt? And will they get anything back?
Now, Mario's question is a very good one. Now, in terms of filing exempt, that's one that I would never request that any client take the chance of filing exempt. By filing exempt, meaning making yourself exempt for tax withholdings on primarily you'll find it in a W-4 situation where you're working as an employee. So it's never a good position to put yourself in the position where, especially if you have no idea as a general taxpayer what the end game is going to look like once we get to the end of the year, moving into the next year to file your taxes. So I would never recommend you putting yourself in a position where you're working a W-2 job and you put yourself exempt, which means you have no federal taxes and possibly or state taxes being withheld from your checks, because that could put you in a predicament where you're working in the same capacity as somebody that's self-employed. Your liability is not being taken out and accounted for incrementally during the year by way of a deduction each pay period, whether it's you're getting by whatever frequency you're paid, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, or weekly. You want to be able to kind of stretch that out incrementally based on tax law and the federal tax tables to have it being withheld. You put yourself as being exempt. Now you have an entire year's worth of income that at some point, which is now when you file your taxes, you have to pay the Pied Piper. So your federal tax liability, you have no cushion. You have nothing paid in to cover any potential burden that you may have. This is, again, in the general case scenario. Now, if you have a very good understanding, working with someone like me, I'll tell you my position over my corporate career. The last, I'd say 15 years of me working as an employee primarily, I have my withholding set to a very high number. The higher the number of withholdings is, the less amount of taxes are going to be withheld.
I'm glad you said that. Yes.
Because I have the level of knowledge that I do, I can balance and making sure that I don't end up with a huge tax bill at the end of the year because I have the offsets of businesses because I was at that point going through college and being able to claim education credits because I had young children that I can claim the benefits of child tax credit, additional child tax credit, and these other things. Or even when my son were younger, child independent care credits. So because I know at the end of the day I have other things to leverage against, I can take that chance. But it's not one that I would recommend to anyone attempt on their W-4 and not take out.
Wow. So she responded and she said this, and we got to try to find a way to give him
Oh,
the short
I
version.
think it's a he, Mario.
Yeah, she said, so by me filing exempt is me getting all my money every check, correct?
Correct. But if you end up having taxable income at the end of the year when you file your taxes, you getting back more of your money now means that you're not putting anything aside to cover your federal tax liability at the end of the year. So you could put yourself in a situation where you owe the government a lot of money.
Wow. Now, for people like Tasha, who says she's been doing her taxes last year, the year before, is there a advantage or disadvantage if somebody feels like they've been doing it, they've been getting money back, they don't feel the need to go to a professional? What would you say to a person who's gotten comfortable doing it themselves?
Well, Miss Tasha, again, I always commend people that want to take the onus of being self-serving. But again, I'm sure there's a huge value, and I think many, if not all, of my clients will attest to this. I'll speak for myself, and I can't speak for the global audience that is all accountants and CPAs across the world that have a high level of experience and knowledge and that are masters of the craft. What we do as a profession is not something that you can just go on Google, that you can use on TurboTax and simply get the same quality of what we'll put out. And again, be mindful of what I'm saying when I referenced our accessibility and our availability.
Yeah, 365 days a year.
You do your taxes one time for the year. As an accountant, the value that I bring to my clients is not preparing a tax return. That is one small, minuscule part of what the value that I bring to them and their households, their families, and their businesses. The information and the knowledge that I share with them and the guidance that I provide to them is what ultimately what it's about. So even if you're just simply working as an employee, Tasha, there's so much value that I could bring to you in the space of being able to open up your mindset to different allocations of credits and adjustments just in a basic situation. But one of the things that I always reference to my clients that are employees especially is getting a mindset of figuring out their transition into being an entrepreneur. And that process is one that could be scary to those if you don't have the right guidance and you have the right professional support around you. So I've assisted many of my clients of being able to start a business by way of the fact that you don't have to worry about a lot of the different aspects of how do I go about doing this. Well, you have a professional right next to you, your accountant, that's going to be here to guide you. So that's again where the real true value in finding an extension of building that legacy by way of finding a professional like myself.
Now, I got another question, but before I do, Miss Michelle says she needs your help in developing a particular business plan. So that's good. I'm glad you said that. So you said you're available all year round. Did that include things like that, helping them get a business plan together?
Yes, absolutely. In the space of beyond taxation is my primary love and joy. And that's where my primary focus is. I'm doing tax returns pretty much all year round. But as I mentioned, accounting, bookkeeping, and also payroll are main functions that accountants provide. In the space of business formation and in credit repair, financial planning and advisory, investment training, quick claim deed filings. There are different areas in the financial services realm that I have experience in, and I give that as an extension to my clients. So in this case of the question regarding being able to formulate and create a business plan, I can certainly be of assistance for you in that case as well.
Right. And if you have any questions and you just absolutely can't come to YouTube, you can put them in the question box because I moved the phone closer and I can answer them. What is your passion? What made you really get into this? I mean, what is it? Is it because you love numbers? Is it because you like seeing people get money back? Or you just like empowering people? I mean, what is your goal as an accountant? Is it to make sure that when they leave you, they know the laws better? Or what is it exactly?
Well, business became a love of mine, growing up in rough environments and, I got my first taste of business more so from a street perspective growing up in Brooklyn, and kind of seeing the dynamics of, commerce on a local level. I won't get too in depth in that, but really transitioning into, my education, where I really got where the field of accounting became a reality for me was actually at the tail end of high school. I took a business course, about maybe 2 semesters before completing my high school diploma, and incorporated many aspects of business, including accounting. And I had no idea what my career path was going to be at that point, even being that close to graduation. So my professor, or the teacher that taught the class, was the one that recommended giving accounting as a degree program that I could take a look at when I started college.
Oh,
And lo and behold, I started college. I was, very highly versed in my coursework. I became president of the accounting society at the college I attended in New York. I ended up being encouraged by my professor, one of my favorite professors, to be an accounting tutor. So I got more exposure there. That got more comfortable with just the field itself and the profession itself, and being able to be credentialed, making the dean's list. And then I got my first opportunity to work for a small CPA firm, and that's where things really took off, because outside of getting my education in the college environment, when I got that opportunity to work for that small CPA firm and those three professionals, and a man that I hold indebted to my career path in being a founder, Mr. Leroy Duffus, is someone I have to highlight. He gave me an opportunity to learn from a trained and qualified CPA that has been, I can never give him hold him in a high enough regard in terms of the impact that he's had on my life, because I had no idea I was going to be here. And this particular field, because you know this very well, Crystal, in terms of my nonprofit work and the things that I do from a community standpoint, my profession is very valuable, to the folks in my community that look like me, and understanding that, financial literacy, business ownership, and investing are things that are not commonplace. They're not generational things that we've had ingrained and instilled in our households. So God has really put me in a position to be in a profession where I can not just simply take care of my family, myself and my family, but I also get to leave a semblance of a legacy bill for those that are outside of my household. And that's what
wow.
it's done
So
for me.
Tasha, I saw what you wrote, Tasha. So your son is an accountant. So you have some people that are there that are giving you some guidance as well, because you have an accountant in the family. So that's good. And
Absolutely.
I saw a couple more people come over from IG. So thank you so much for coming over for IG. Anything that I haven't asked you that you want to point out to individuals as they get ready to gather the information and just do whatever they need to do when they take the information to the accountant, like things that people can do to make the process easier for you as an accountant when you prepare your taxes?
All right. Well, I can highlight a couple of different changes that have come into play in terms of what's new. In
Okay.
essence, season. There were a lot of different provisions that came into play during this period of the pandemic and the COVID epidemic, pandemic that we've had the last couple of years. A lot of tax law changes that affected your 2020 and 2021 returns are no longer in play for tax year 2022. One of the main ones, which a lot of folks, were pleased and enamored to receive, were the government economic stimulus payments, aka the rebates by way of stimulus that we received. There were two payments that were issued in 2020, and a third was issued in 2021. The stimulus has no effect or impact on your tax return for 2022. Now, in the space of it, it was never a reportable income by way of it being taxable income on your last two filings, but you had to make your accountant or your professional that handles your tax work aware of the fact that you receive these particular benefits, because if you didn't receive them through the normal channels of the government sending it to you directly, you were able to claim the credits for the first, second, and or third stimulus on your last two tax returns.
Wow.
Another one of the changes for purposes of itemized deduction Schedule A, the last two seasons, charitable contributions and donations made in the form of cash, where you were able to claim them as above the line deductions, meaning you could generally only claim charitable contributions and donations in years prior to 2020 as an itemized deduction when you claim itemized deductions on Schedule A. But the benefit of being able to write off and include cash charitable contributions and donations up to a limit of $600 for tax year 2020 and 2021 is no longer in play for tax year 2022.
Wow.
That's another big one that will impact a lot of folks.
Yes, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing those. And guys, that's why I record this so you'll be able to go back and do the replay. Miss Patricia came over, I believe from she's here from either YouTube or Facebook, and she had a question. She said, "My daughter wants to do accounts receivable. What does that title consist of?"
Now, for an AR person or an accounts receivable is, in essence, it's another stated function within the framework of an accounting unit or an accounting department, whether it's your private business or you're working for a corporate firm. And that's simply, in essence, many folks in this field of accounting, especially in your earlier years, you would start off in an accounts receivable or an accounts payable role, where you're able to focus more so on different components of the business unit within a department structure. So you'll go and you could attain your associate's degree in being able to get an AR position. And then from there, you'll want to grow and blossom into a bit, hopefully moving into the space of being a full charge accountant. So, you go ahead and get your necessary degrees and credentials in order to be able to secure a full accounting role.
Now, I have a question because there's a lot of people that have started businesses with the pandemic. A lot of people already have businesses, and a lot of people going to start a business, but they don't quite know what business they want to start.
Right.
And I thank you so much for joining us, Nubian Treasure. We appreciate you coming in.
Nubian.
Can you talk about the benefits of each type of entity, whether they choose to be a sole proprietor, whether they choose to have a partnership or a corporation or LLC? A lot of times people don't understand the benefit of those structures and why they should choose either one according to what it is they're trying to do for their business.
I'll give you some more so the surface level overview of each. So in the case of a sole proprietorship or a DBA, doing business as, that's in essence where you decide to start up a particular business activity for self-employment, where you're not formally registered as a LLC and or corporate entity with a department of state, wherever you decide to do business. So in essence, you're working a job and you want to start up a consulting business or a marketing business, and you don't have the level of time or commitment to be able to make it your primary or the financial means to make it your primary. So you can operate under the structure of just simply doing a DBA or sole proprietorship. So you have the benefits of being able to write off and claim any expenses that you incur, including any vehicle related deductions that you may incur, and of course, reporting any sources of income. I'll hold that in place. Now, if you look to then formally register and you want to take on the opportunity to register as an LLC, now I addressed it a little bit earlier in terms of being able to have that separation of your personal name from the business entity that you're operating under. You have that protection that's in place by way of you potentially being subject to a lawsuit or any legal ramifications that may come while in the process of doing business. I'm all about mitigating or minimizing any liability and exposure. So always recommend it at a minimum to get an LLC. An LLC structure, at the end of the day, you still need to speak with, have a one-on-one consultation with me so that based on your current position as you're formally registering and your vision and your goals towards what you want to have your business blossom or grow into, may not be an LLC structure that be the most appropriate for you. Now, you get the same benefits of the write-offs and claiming and reporting the income. The tax, from a tax standpoint, there are no true benefits to having that there are no true indeed tax benefits for an LLC because it's treated the same way as a sole proprietorship. The income that you earn for an single member LLC, as is the same with a sole proprietorship or a DBA, you're subject to paying self-employment taxes on your gross earnings when you operate these businesses. Self-employment tax, in short form, is Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes. Now, when you're working as an employee, there's a burden that's placed on you as an individual. 7.65% of Medicare and Social Security comes out of your gross pay, and then your employer matches for a total of 13.5. That burden is then sent to the Social Security Administration. That's a tax that everyone has to pay, whether you're, most cases, 99% of the cases, whether you're self-employed or working in a business, you got to pay Social Security taxes, you got to pay Medicare taxes.
And what about the S corporation?
Now, for corporate entity, you're not, and you registered as an S corp specifically, because you could also have a C corp. Small businesses or medium businesses are in the S corp range. The owners, and just for distinctions of the ownership, I also reference the owners of an LLC are noted as
managers and members.
Owners, correct. For a corporate entity, the owners of a corporation are shareholders. And there's a tax burden by way of being able to pay federal tax or corporate tax that's afforded to a S corp that is not available to an LLC. Other benefits between another deduction or benefit that you will not be able to claim as a single member LLC or sole proprietorship, as opposed to a corp. If you're required to be on payroll, officially on payroll, meaning W-2 wages, deductions of federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, FUTA, all these different taxes are accounted for. You can write off that expense, which is generally one of the biggest expenses you'll have for most businesses, which are labor-related expenses or wage expenses or payroll. That's a deduction available to an S corp. You cannot write off payments to you as an owner of an single member LLC by way of taking that deduction. Those are you're paid as a single member LLC by way of owner's draws, and you cannot take that tax deduction for that. So you lose that particular benefit, which may be the greatest cost that you'll have.
Wow. So like I said, y'all, I told you in the beginning to have you some paper and pen because it's going to be a lot of information. But that's the reason why we're giving you his email so that you can send him something. And if you're on Instagram and you came from Instagram, you can follow him on Instagram at OBrownBTF. So send him a DM and say, listen, I saw you on Storytime over on YouTube. I'm following you. I'm interested in talking to you, and let him know that you saw him here, and he will follow up with you. Okay. And if you want to learn more about what he does, you can also visit his website at www.btfllc.com as well. All right. And I just want to throw a plug in there also. Contact me if you have a story and you want to get your business out there. You feel as though you have some valuable information to share. Let me know. You can follow me on my social media platforms, and I can make sure that I help you get the word out about what you're doing. The same way he's sharing his information, you can share yours too. We want to be a platform that allows businesses to get not just promotion, not just exposure, but at the same time to tell why they do what they're doing, so people can understand. Because a lot of time people connect with you, and that's why they want to do business with you. Oliver, just a few questions because I know you have another meeting, and I know you get up early in the morning. You are a councilman, is that correct?
Oh no, I haven't gotten that high honor.
What is it that you do again?
In the space of advocacy, I'm one of the co-founders and chairman of the board of directors for the South Florida Black Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Are a community-based organization with a targeted focus towards the empowerment, education, being a platform that provides various resources to the Black and Brown business community. And our footprint is centered here in the state of Florida, in the South Florida region, specifically from the area known as the Treasure Coast, extending on down to South Florida. But we also host 3 events each month, 2 of which are virtual, and that allows our market to be opened up a bit by way of the Zoom platform, where if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, we have an educational event with a featured speaker that's featured every first Wednesday of the month from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And every 4th Wednesday of the month, we have a virtual networking event also in the same time frame from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So, from a standpoint of advocacy and being a man of service to my community, that organization is one that's extremely important to me. Again, it's another greater extension of what God has gifted me and given me the abilities to be able to extend to people and share with others so I can help them. That's what I'm being a viable part, and one of the linchpins of the organization is something that is a great value.
Touch base because I definitely need to get over there to those things. I'd like to share some information with regards to some things that I'm passionate about as well for the community. So send me a DM about that. Let's do that. Absolutely. 2 more questions I want to ask you. Many people want to hire their children because they hear that they can put their children to work, they can pay their children. And you talk a little bit about the benefits of hiring your children working for you at home.
Absolutely. That one becomes twofold for me. First, you're able to certainly reap the benefits of the tax deduction, the thresholds, the thresholds that are in place for purposes of being able to pay your children and or relatives that do that actually operate in the space of doing work for the business. Again, being very transparent. You're actually having them work and not just simply using it as on paper kind of situation.
Right.
And any client that I work with, I make sure they adhere to the strict standards of making sure that I can go to sleep comfortably at night, and they can as well. That the IRS will not come after them for doing illicit things. So, you'll be able to write off the benefit of the tax deduction for those wages that are paid in the space of being able to employ your children. So you're investing back into your household. So that's a major plus. And
And you
also,
see somebody said Oliver is a person of integrity. Miss Rita knows you. That must be one of your clients. She said it's extremely important. And that is true, guys. Listen, and guess what? You're teaching your children, you're teaching them skills. Like have them do something and teach them something. You know what I mean? So this is like, like you said, it's very important.
like
If you're over here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I gotta say that. Hit the subscribe button. Don't just watch this. Make sure before you leave, you hit subscribe so that you can get notifications for the next person to come. And again, if you have something that you have to offer, DM me so that we could talk about that. Now that's important, Oliver. Here's another one that people don't ask a lot of questions about. People become widowers, people are passing away. Is there anything that you can tell us about that for someone who may have just, I know a couple people just had some tragedies and people passed away in regard to their taxes, whether it's a parent, a child, or a spouse. Anything particular people need to know when it comes to someone passing away and their taxes that we need to know?
all right. Well, in the space of, death being a part of life, unfortunately, it could also impact your taxes. And, if it's a situation where it's a spouse and you're a married couple, in that case, you have the ability to still continue to claim married filing joint for your spouse 2 years after the year where they've formally become deceased as a qualifying widower. So you can still claim the benefits of a married filing joint couple for the 2 seasons there that follow thereafter their date of death. In the case of a child, if the child was living, in essence, birth within a tax year and unfortunately met their untimely demise, you're still able to claim the benefits of being able to claim that dependency exemption. So it's not one that thankfully I haven't experienced a lot of that over my years, but it is a part of the my practice in terms of I've lost clients, especially with the pandemic over the last couple of years. So, it's good to be aware of those things because this is you still have a responsibility to take care of your taxes, even in the point that you're going through grieving. So, yeah.
You said something that's very important. They can claim married for 2 years. That's something that a lot of people probably don't know. That's probably real critical because when they
Right.
switch to head of household or when they switch to single, it makes a big difference. So that's a valuable nugget that I'm sure many people will enjoy. I'm going to pass that on to someone because I'm going to a funeral this Saturday. And I don't know that she knows that because her husband just passed away. So I thank you. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for telling me to ask that question because that's a real, real, real good one. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you feel as though you want people to know? And I see another question that Dash teased. I'm going to get to that question in 1 minute. I see you, bro. Is there any other questions or any other thing that you would like to share that I did not ask?
So one of the main big one for those taxpayers that have children, the benefits that we've received again escalated or are higher amounts being received by way of benefits for child tax credit and by way of if you're eligible to receive earned income credit. These amounts have decreased for 2022. Now, for in the case of tax year 2021, our last filing season, if you had a child from the point of birth up until age 5, you were able to claim a benefit of $3,600 for child tax credit for that child. From age 6 up to age 17, you had the benefit of $3,000 to claim as a credit to either absorb your tax liability or be potential refundable dollars from the government. Well, those numbers have dropped back down, and child tax credit now has a benefit of $2,000 for tax year 2022. And again, the same thing with the earned income credit calculations. These thresholds have all gone down. In addition to child independent care, the maximum amount of those credits have gone down from tax years 2021 and 2020. So a lot of the additional benefits we've received for the pandemic, and I've spoke about the biggest one, which is a lot of refund amounts were much higher by way of the stimulus payments. So now we no longer have that in place. So be prepared to see a decrease across the board in many cases for your refund totals. Hopefully you've certainly had the advice and counsel of a professional that has helped you to make sure that your W-4 elections were set up properly, so you don't end up with any uncomfortable conversations once you get through your tax preparation process. And certainly as a business owner, that your books and records have been in order. You've been able to account for your relevant write-offs, you preferably using software or spreadsheets, but just getting the counsel of an accountant or CPA that'll be able to guide you. So again, you don't have these uncomfortable conversations where you're in a liability position potentially at the end of the year.
I like QuickBooks. QuickBooks saves
Yeah.
me. And Das asked, as an accountant, do you also deal with wills, living wills, and life insurance?
No. If I did start my Series 6 and Series 7's certifications at one point, but with enough on my plate, I decided to kind of leave that to the wayside. So for those particular specialized services, I would definitely ask you to connect with me, Dash, or anybody else that has that need. For purposes of wills, being able to draft wills, I have a network of attorneys that I could certainly assign you to that'll be able to help you with setting up and getting your wills prepared, setting up an estate, which is something I highly recommend, especially for business owners that have assets. These are things that are necessary at the point that we expire and we leave this earth. You want to make sure that your business affairs are going to be held in conjunction with how you want them to be done in terms of and setting up, I believe, I forget the end part of what he said, but a financial advisor for purposes of being able to establish brokerage accounts. So I have a network of other financial professionals that will be able to help and assist with all these different needs.
Right. And if you go back, once you subscribe to this channel, if you go back, you'll see Jonica Rowland. She is a licensed insurance agent, and she's done a couple of different lives with me and gave a lot of good information in regards to those things. So you'll find that out there as well. So we try to also bring people here to give you that information. So we have the insurance information. Now we have the tax information here, accounting. We have to bring you back to talk about some of the other stuff, because if you just came in, we mentioned earlier that, his background is broad. I mean, he does accounting, bookkeeping, payroll services, and tax preparation. He has been on Wall Street Financial District helping those corporations. He's been doing this over 25 years. And this is why it's very important that you email him if you haven't already done so. Write it down so you have it, or follow him over on Instagram and on Facebook. On Facebook and other places, what is it over there? Because I think you said right.
On Facebook and LinkedIn, you could find me under my name, Oliver Brown. And I could also leave my company telephone number as well if you'd like to reach out to me by phone. My business phone number is 772-873-7600. Again, that's 772-873-7600. So feel free to reach out to me on any of those different mediums. Certainly look forward to being able to set up an initial free consultation to discuss your particular needs, whether it's your taxes or anything in the space of business. And certainly looking forward to being able to build that relationship and be a value add to all those that need me.
Listen, I truly thank you, because I know you have to get ready for another meeting. I want to respect your time. We got to bring you back again so we could do this again and maybe focus on other things. Like maybe we can do a conversation on the payroll service. We can do one on the bookkeeping, because all of these things are so important. And I think I would love to have you come back. Maybe we can do something once a month and focus on it different ways. So once again, people, we thank you for coming in. Make sure that you go and subscribe. And Rita said that she does will and estate planning herself. So there you have it, Rita. Let us know how they can reach you, and then we can do it. We are helping one another
Can I plug real quick? Rita Pinder is actually one of my fellow co-founders of the South Florida Black Chamber of Commerce and a board director, and she works with an organization called Legal Shield. So in
I was
terms,
going to say legal shield, prepaid legal, all of those. Like, you have to get involved with these things because they have great services for you that help you out when you get tickets and when you need to do certain things. All of those are really good to have, and those people. So nice to meet you,
I
Rita.
have, I have their network at my disposal, so they cover all my business and my personal affairs when it comes to legal.
Wow. So
Yep.
listen, any closing comments you'd like to give us before we get out of here, Oliver, in regards to, again, repeating how they can reach out to you for your networking events, and if there's a deadline for them, if they want you to do their taxes, because we want to make sure that if you're taking clients, they meet that deadline.
Yes. So first and foremost, the first major deadline, and let me see if I can find a calendar to see what day of the week March 15th lands on. March 15th is a Wednesday. So if you are a multi-member owned LLC, which is a partnership, or you are a corporate entity by way of an S corp or C corp or another corporate structure, your tax returns are due March 15th. I repeat, they're due on March 15th. So I'm focusing primarily on personal returns right now, but I'm also making sure that once I get to about the second week of February, my focus is going to be the business clients that are going to be due first in March. So if you are of that particular business structure, please contact me immediately, as soon as possible, so we can engage, set up the consultation. I can make you aware of all of the details that I will need in order to finalize and submit your tax return that meets that particular deadline in March. April 18th deadline will be for personal taxes, LLCs, and all other entities in large part, including estates and trusts. So then, if you need, again, any level of guidance, being able to figure out what documentation and support you'll need to get together, we'll schedule the consultation and have that discussion about what your needs may be. And in the case of being able to meet my deadlines based and being able to serve my clients appropriately, any client that comes on board or provides all of their documentation in line and it's less than three weeks or less approaching the deadline, you are automatically going to be a client that I'll be filing an extension for. And there's an automatic 6-month extension that can be filed for, which will give you until mid-September, and lastly mid-October for the March and April deadlines, respectively, 6 months down the line, so that you're not subject to any penalties for late filing. So if you need to contact me once again, you can find me by way of my company website, www.btfllc.com. You can also reach me by way of my company email, which is info@btfllc.com. You can find me by phone at 772-873-7600. And if you're also interested, I do a lot of promotions and I do a lot of collaborative work. I appreciate Crystal for having me here this evening. She's one of my great colleagues that I've been able to entertain, and my sisters by way of Instagram. And I've met a lot of wonderful people, business clients, and also partnerships where I can work and being able to present and advise the public on different platforms. So if you want to connect with me on Instagram, at OBrownBTF is my handle. LinkedIn and Facebook, you'll find me under my name, Oliver Brown. And on Facebook, my business page is Brown Tax Preparation and Financial Services. And just last but not least, but certainly as important, if you want to find out any of the details and being able to join the membership of the South Florida Black Chamber of Commerce, you can reach out to me on any of these different mediums, and I'll invite you to the 3 events, 2 virtual and 1 in person, that we host each month, in being able to provide that level of guidance that you'll need as an entrepreneur or someone seeking to move into the space of being an entrepreneur, and how our network can be a vital for you as you. So, Crystal, well, I will end by saying thank you once again. I appreciate your graciousness this evening and allow me to be here to present on your platform. You're an amazing person. Continued success with all the things that you do, and I certainly look forward to being able to engage with you again in the future.
Yes, sir. I thank you so much. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, go follow up. It is not doing you any good just to get all this information and get information overload. Follow up, like on one of those platforms, okay? Get your money right. Get your coins right so you can get your money and stay out of trouble. Oliver, we'll be in touch. Let's talk about the next time we're going to do this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Very well.
See you next time, and send me that information because I need to come over there and share some information. Let's do it. Have an amazing day. Thank you. God bless, and we'll see you next time. All right. I appreciate you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard from Oliver Brown. Man, that was a lot of information. I hope that you got it. I hope that you are ready to follow up, and we'll see you next time. I'll be back tomorrow night with a young lady, and that's my normally scheduled program. I added this one in just for you. I added it in just for y'all because I knew tax season was coming, and I knew Mr. Brown had something good for us. Like, so God, we appreciate you. God bless you, and we thank you so much for everything that you have. And we know that you most definitely are going to be pleased. Tomorrow night, you'll learn how to socialize and get some things done for marketing, promotion. It's a good one, y'all. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, APW Shot Crystal, I'm doing my best to bring it to you. You just got to come and let me know what you want. You got to let me know what you have, and we'll share it. I'll see you next time. Crystal Bodie Smith, my mission is to stir up the gift, instill hope, and save lives. See you later. Bye-bye. Keep hope alive. Thank you for coming through.